I have an idea for a page layout that I want to try in my art journal, and this is the book that has the calendar days in it, so I cover everything up. My idea is to do a reverse silhouette, and I want to use an image from this children's book on how to be a fairy, and I found a fairy. I like the size of it. It fills up the page just how I'd like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this image out of the book so that I don't mess up what's on the other side of the page. I'm going to just do one of these numbers. And then I'm going to trim her out, fussy cut around her, and I'm going to leave out the really fancy details like this hair that hangs down. I'm going to cut that off because I want to use her as a silhouette. So you want an image that's going to be very recognizable. Something big like a heart, a butterfly, things like that work really well. But I have this idea, so I'm going to try this with this image, and a coloring book image. You could do the same thing as well, and I just thought I'd share my process as I go because it might be something that you want to try also. And if you really weren't sure whether or not this image would work well as a reverse silhouette, what you could do is put tissue paper or tracing paper over it, draw a line around the outside border, and then look at that image that you just drew to see, does it look recognizable as a silhouette. Okay, so I cut out my fairy and I left out some of her fancy hair features. Her hair came down here and I wanted the shape of her face, so I trimmed that out. That's the beauty of your scissors and fussy cutting, is you can make that any way you want it to be. So I am going to put her down. I'm going to save her and use her for something else, and I'm not going to put the basket. I don't like this lump here. I'll just draw a straight line where that basket is. But this is where I want her on my layout. So I'm going to lay her down, and I'm going to do just a light pencil tracing, and I'm not tracing the shape of her right now. I'm just doing a basic trace, leaving about a ½ inch, ¼ of an inch space so that I know what my borders are that I need to do my decorating. So if that makes any sense, here's my shape of her that I'm going to decorate. Then over here I've gone ahead and drawn some stars, and they're going to be in the layout, and there's a star down here too, and I really like them. She's holding on to a star in her hand, and so there's going to be big stars around her, and I drew them out ahead of time instead of later so that I'd know where I want them to go. And then what I think I'm going to do, because you could do that step later, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put some tracing paper over this, and I'm going to trace this out exactly where they are and make a template for adding them back in, because once I cover over these lines that I've drawn with my underneath design, I won't be able to see the stars, and I'll have to hand draw them again, and I really like the way I've got them. So I'm going to make a template, if that makes any sense. So this might be confusing in the beginning, but just follow along with me here, and trust me, I have a plan. So, okay, so when I put this tracing paper down, I can see right where I want my stars to be. So I'm going to draw them with my tracing paper. And then I'm going to put this down on a cutting mat, a self-healing mat, and with an X-Acto knife I'm going to cut out all the stars just as they are, and then that will make a template to put this back onto my page later for where I want my stars to be. I didn't draw this one dark enough to be able to see it underneath. There we go. And it's kind of tricky because I put it in the crease of the page, but I love that. I like to do stuff in the crease of the page. So I'm making my traced out star images so I know where they're going to go, and I know their shape and how they fit on the page. And I've got one down here. Okay. I'm not sure if you can see that, probably not very well, but there's lines on there and I'm going to cut that out as my template. And for now I'm going to put it aside. Okay, and for the next step, what I'm going to want to do is to start decorating this page. And you want to decorate over all those places, those spaces, the stars that are going to be blocked out and the fairy over here. So I'm going to start doing collaging with paper and paints and washi tape and a little bit of this, that, and the other over those areas. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I've gathered together some collage items to put in the background. This is some paper that's got all kinds of neat ephemera look to it, some old postage stamps, inside patterns, some security envelopes. As you know, I love to use those. Some fun tissue paper that has polka dots on it. This is a piece that came from doing another project. It went through my embossing machine and it looks like stars. This would be from a jelly plate on jelly sheets, anything you want. So this is where you're going to just start being ultra creative and you're just going to start tearing little bits and pieces. Get out your matte gel medium or your Mod Podge and just start laying things down over each other, covering that whole image. You can put paint underneath and you want to go over the lines. You want to go over those edges a little bit so that you get the full coverage of the stars. You know, and you don't have to do stars. You can do whatever you want. Say you did a heart. You just want to be sure that you go about 1/4 of an inch outside of that heart area when you're doing your collaging. So you could, you know, put out your heart, do all your collaging in the middle, and then you're going to do your reverse silhouette after. So, okay, and for those of you who haven't done this before, I thought I would show you as I fill in one of the areas. And I'm using matte gel medium and just a small flat paintbrush. Okay, so I'm going to just start doing some laying down of items, and I'm going over the edge of the outline of the stars. And I'm going to just start layering stuff on here, there, and everywhere. This is a postage stamp and I'm putting it upside down. Little pieces of paper. I just want to make sure that I go over those edges. And it'll make texture, and the outside part of it will be very textured, which will be kind of fun. I love this. This is neat because it's got stars in it. It's kind of thick, but let's see if it works. Kind of get it a little saturated. Oh, there it goes. Perfect. Come on, stick down. So right now the process looks kind of willy-nilly, and it is, but the end result will be nifty. I've done this before and I really enjoy it, the process of it. And I like to make sure that I'm carrying my items over to the other spots. So things that I've put down over here, I want to be sure that I use them in other places so that they kind of have a cohesive balance to it. So because I use some of that security envelope over there, I'm going to use a piece of it over here, and so on. Just make sure that you have little bits. You don't have to do that. That's just my process. I'm just showing you how I do stuff. You guys can do it any way you want to in your art journals. There is no right or wrong. Art journaling is just all about playing and having fun and using different products and seeing what happens when it comes alive. So just because I do it a certain way, you can try it that way, or you can maybe try it and discover that you like doing it different, and maybe it spawns a different idea for you, for your art journal. That's what's fun with sharing our ideas and watching each other, and it's just learning and playing and growing. So anyway, you get the idea. So I'm just laying down bits and pieces, covering up those areas. I'm going to go ahead and finish that part, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. So here's my collage using little bits of this and that. I used washi tape and all kinds of images, torn book text, all kinds of fun stuff. I didn't use paint this time. I just used other little bits and pieces. But that's what it looks like when I've covered my background images. So now I'm going to put that aside. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking my piece of tracing paper and an X-Acto knife and a mat, and I'm cutting out those images of the stars to make my little template for putting down on the page. Okay, so now I'm going to take my template and I'm going to line it up over where I've done my collaging, where I want those stars to be. And that is about how they were. That's perfect. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is take a black pen, a pen that does black. I'm using a Tombow Mono drawing pen, and I'm going to trace those stars onto those images. Okay, so I'm going to go around on the inside of this template all the way around and trace in those stars. Okay, so now you can see where my stars are over those collaged bits. And now what I'm going to do is put down my fairy over the area that I collaged for her, and take a pen and draw around and draw her on, trace her on as well. Okay, I traced her on my fairy, and I didn't draw around that basket. As I said before, I kind of don't want the basket in this image, so I'm just freehanding in that spot. But see, there is my, hopefully you can see that, the image of the girl, the fairy, and her wings and her face and her hand with the star. So now what you're going to do is you're going to paint in all that background in preferably black. You could use a navy blue, you could use whatever you want really, but I'm going black because I really want that reverse silhouette image. And I'm using black gesso. So I'm going to go ahead and put down some gesso, and what you want to do is just carefully, you want to spread that paint or that gesso. You can use acrylic paint, and you want to just go up to the edges of that image that you did in pen to trace your design. And so you're going to have to take your time and go around all those edges and then fill in that whole page with black. And that's what's going to make your reverse silhouette. So I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing and come back and show you. Okay, here's how it turned out. I absolutely love it. That's what I had envisioned. I've got my fairy holding a star and my 4 stars that are kind of big, and then all the cool collage inside of them. And I like it. It's exactly what I had in my mind. And now what I'm going to use is, I have some rubber stamps, some little ones like this that are kind of backgroundish, and then I have these foam stamps that are stars. And I'm going to use my archival pigment ink pad Brilliance in Moonlight White. I feel like this is the best white ink. It shows up the best, and that's just my personal preference. There's a lot of different brands, but I've used this one for years and I really like it. So I'm going to add some stars here and there. Just stamp some stars. Look at, oh, it's so fun. So cute. Oh my gosh, so cute. So I'm adding some stars. I'm gonna stamp some stars in the background here. Oh, love it. I love it. I love it. That's what I had envisioned. And some solid ones. Maybe like this. So cute. Oh my gosh. Maybe just to me, but I really like it. And then I'm going to do some of these white dots, make it look like the stars that she's holding is kind of sprinkling yummy goodness. Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so cute. And now what I'm going to do is take a white Posca pen and I'm going to add words to the page and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I took my white Posca pen and I added the words, "Never stop wishing upon stars." And it's cute because the little fairy's toe is on the capital S. I was tempted to go around the stars, but I think if I do that, it's really going to defeat the reverse silhouette look, so I'm not going to do that on this layout. I'm going to leave it as is. I like it. I love the fairy and her star sprinkling stardust, and I love the interest inside the stars from the collage elements. And I just did a little blue crisscrossy border with a blue Posca pen around to tie it all in. And I'm going to use my clear Spectrum Noir pen. It's just a clear glitter pen. I'm going to add, I think, a little bit of glitter to this, like putting it over the dots that I stamped on there, just dotting on some glitter. These Spectrum Noir clear glitter pens are just so fun to use because you could just add a little sparkle to just about anything. See if you can see that sparkle. It looks better in person. Looks really pretty in person, and you really can't see it on the camera. And you could go in and add a little sparkle to my fairy here. I could just go over this. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to do, is go inside and over my collage elements, just take that sparkle and make those collage elements all sparkle. Oh, that's really cool. I'm glad I did that. I'm going to do the same with the stars. So just go in here and paint over it with that clear Spectrum Noir sparkle. Oh, look at now. See if you can see that. You can't see it on camera. Ah, darn. Darn, I wish you could see. In real life, and not on camera, I can't find a way for it to show kind of that way. But the whole thing becomes sparkly, but yet you can see everything underneath because it's just clear. So it's just gorgeous. That clear glitter paint is just so pretty inside those stars. That was what this needed. It needed something to make it really pop, and that just did it. I wish you could see. So I'll put this in a link to these products in the description box below, and hopefully you give this reverse silhouetting a try. It's very easy and it's very fun, and as you're painting that background, that black background on, it's just so much fun to see those collage elements, just see what's going to end up within them. Wish you could see the sparkle. Oh, you can't see it very well, but in person they're just beautiful because the stars and the fairies sparkle. So it's pretty. I like it. Turned out fun and interesting, and that is reverse silhouette. So give it a try. Thanks for stopping by at Twisted Art Designs. And don't forget, art soothes the heart.